Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei become a master of Succubus part 4. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video and also share this video with your friends. I have created my other videos playlist, there you can watch my all videos easily, check out as well. Let's start this video. Issei was panting from the strenuous exercise and he felt his legs begin giving up and he sat down in the tub with his back pressed against it. He then propped Lilith against him, her head resting on his shoulder, while both began breathing heavily. He wrapped his hand around her waist and he used his other hand to stroke her hair comfortingly, running his fingers through her lovely, soft, silky hair. God, Issei, that was amazing, she moaned in approval, to which Issei merely kissed her on the forehead. Lilith wrapped her arms around his chest, looping behind them and snuggling into the nook between his shoulder and neck. The two sat content in each other's warmth and that of the hot water in the bathtub. Issei couldn't help but smell the aroma of vanilla that emanated from his succubus. He took a deep breath, savoring the vanilla aroma. "Enjoying yourself, I see," she hummed while still nuzzling into the nook between his shoulder and neck. "You know I love vanilla," he replied, to which Lilith rolled her eyes. "Duh, that's why I put it. And that's why you are my number one," he spoke softly before kissing her on the forehead, while a gentle smile tugged on her lips as they enjoyed each other's embrace. Before the both of them knew it, they had spent little more than an hour in the bath. The two got up and showered together before leaving the bathroom to go for lunch. They entered the kitchen to see Tiamat behind the counter sitting on a stool while being flanked by Asya, Rainer, Kaloriner and Middled. "Morning, lovebirds, or should I say afternoon?" Tiamat teased with a knowing grin. "Issei knew anyway that trying to hide your activities from a dragon who is your mate and has probably the best sense of smell is an exercise in futility." Yeah, what do you want an award for?" Issei joked as he got near the counter, to which Tiamat cracked a lustful grin before she reached across the counter and grabbed him by the collar of his shirt and promptly kissed him. Rainer and Middle stumbled to cover Asya's eyes, both of them placing one hand each on one of her eyes. Middleton, Rainer, what's going on?" Asya spoke in confusion as her fingers tried to pry their hands off. "Not till you're older, Asya," Middleton Rainer quickly told her softly and almost sisterly tone. Okay," she mumbled, but was blushing, trying to picture what was happening, which for a nun admittedly isn't much or as realistic as someone who would have prior knowledge. Tiamat bit his lower lip, earning a hum of approval from the brunette before she gained access to his mouth with her tongue. She gently traced his upper lip with her tongue before swirling around his own. The kiss lasted a few moments before Tiamat let go of Issei, who stumbled back panting a little. "Thanks for the morning kiss," he said with a smirk. Tiamat rolled her eyes. "Afternoon kiss, Dumbus." Kaloriner and Lilith merely grinned at the morning interaction before deciding to go prepare breakfast. While Middleton Rainer saw the coast was clear and slowly pulled their hands away from her eyes. Suddenly, Issei's phone began ringing, cutting through the atmosphere of the room. He saw it was Ria's and decided to answer. "Hello? Issei, where have you been?" Two loud voices shouted from the other end, forcing Issei to put his phone far away from his ear, lest he go deaf. "You have a lot of explaining to do with all that park damage." Turns out the person shouting was Sona Citri, the student council president, also a devil. "Sona, now is not the time for some park damage, where Issei Razor suddenly showed up and is basically about to wed me." Ria spoke with panic. "Aw, fuck, I'm coming." Issei sighed before closing his phone. He turned to Lilith and Tiamat. "Time to go, ladies," he spoke, to which the two nodded while the rest had confused expressions. "We will explain later, but right now I have to go handle some business," Issei quickly explained before he bolted out the door, followed by a flying Tiamat and Lilith. Things are never going to get bunked around here." Kaloriner spoke out loud, to which her three comrades nodded but were still trying to find out what made Issei bolt so quickly. Issei Hyoudou burst into the occult research club to find Ria's and her peerage along with Razor, but what he never expected was to see Grafia. His eyes widened as he saw the maid, who placed a silence finger on her lips, indicating she wanted Issei not to react. He understood the signal and gave a small, barely noticeable nod. "Sorry for being late, Ria," Issei spoke affectionately as he caught his breath. Ria's blushed at the affectionate nickname. "You picked this human over Razor? You have got to be joking with me. I could easily crush it." Razor ranted, but his ranting was cut short as he saw the two beauties called Lilith and Tiamat walk in behind Issei. Grafia, however, cast an analytical gaze on the two women. Every fiber of her being was telling her that these two women were generous. "Razor approves of your taste in women," Razor quickly spoke approvingly. "Thanks. Now I heard you want to marry Riaz. Sorry, Razor, but Riaz is not an object to be taken at will. She is happy as she is and happy with me being her boyfriend, and to me Riaz's happiness is of paramount importance," Issei bluntly told him. Razor's neutral expression turned into a scowl, while Riaz blushed and her heart began beating. "Why am I blushing so much? He isn't actually my boyfriend." But maybe I want him to be, Riaz thought inwardly. You are interfering in things you can't comprehend. Human Razor spoke seriously and with a scowl. Issei stepped forward, closing the distance between him and Razor as the two locked eyes. I can't comprehend. All I see is a man crushing my loved one's future. He spoke slowly and with disgust. Riaz was blushing the whole time and her heart thumping in her chest as she saw Issei call her so affectionately and defend her. Gentleman Grafia cut in, forcing the two men out of their staring contest. The two stepped away at the same time, but still locked gazes. Since a third party has intervened in this issue, I must bring Issei Hyoudou to the heads of House Phoenix and Gremory to discuss what options are possible. Until then, please wait for a summoning, Grafia declared, and Razor, Riaz and Issei nodded. Grafia summoned a summoning circle to which Issei stepped onto it while he turned to Lilith and Tiamat. Make sure he doesn't try anything, he told them both, to which they nodded. Although they both were worried about something happening to Issei, they trusted him. The circle teleported the two away with a bright flash as the room was left to a disgruntled Riaz and Riser. Issei and Grafia teleported into a hallway of a large medieval mansion in the underworld. Grafia suddenly began walking down the hallway and Issei decided it would be wise to follow her. It's nice to see you again, Grafia, he said as they walked. Likewise, Issei, she replied, breaking her maid facade and giving him a small, barely noticeable smile. I didn't know you were a maid of the House of Gremory, he spoke calmly. And I never knew you were Ria's boyfriend or even had knowledge of the supernatural, she replied evenly, to which the boy smirked. Touché, I am not actually her boyfriend, I was merely pretending, Issei quickly clarified. And why would you? She asked. To protect her from getting married to that insufferable asshole, he spoke bluntly. He is insufferable, Grafia agreed. Grafia suddenly stopped in front of two massive oak doors. She knocked on the door before a voice replied, come in. Grafia opened the door and entered, while Issei was almost blinded by the brightness of the room compared to the other. As he entered the room, there were a total of 6 people, each facing each other. There were 2 women, both were older women, one with blonde hair, the other, well, 2 of the men literally looked like older versions of Riaz, while the other 2 men looked like older, more mature versions of Razor. They all cast analytical looks on the brunette. Lord and ladies of House Gremory and Phoenix, I present to you Issei Hyoudou, Riaz Gremory's boyfriend, Grafia introduced, to which everyone's jaw dropped. Lord Gremory, what is the meaning of this? Lord Phoenix spoke in shock. I assure you, Lord Phoenix, we had no knowledge of this, Lady Gremory replied. Instead of jumping to conclusions, why not ask the young man? Ruvel, Razor's older brother, spoke to the 6, then turned eagerly to Issei. What is there to say? I am Issei Hyoudou, a human who is dating Riaz Gremory. I also know of the supernatural, and I intend to challenge Razor for Riaz's hand. Issei spoke, to which Surziches grinned. It seems fate has given him an opportunity. Now may I know your names? He asked as politely as he could. Surziches Lucifer, one of the 4 Satans, and Riaz's older brother. Surziches introduced himself. Then Alana Gremory, mother to Riaz Gremory and lady of House Gremory. The brunette woman introduced herself with a demure smile. Zeodicus Gremory, father to Riaz Gremory and lord of House Gremory. Riaz's father introduced himself. Lord Amadeus Phoenix, first name is made up, lord of House Phoenix and father to Riser Phoenix. Lord Phoenix introduced himself. Lady Avalia Phoenix, first name made up, lady of House Phoenix and mother to Riser Phoenix. Lady Phoenix introduced herself. She had long flowing blonde hair with sapphire blue eyes and boobs to match Benelana Gremory. Urval Phoenix, first son of House Phoenix, the older Razor asked. Now that introductions are out of the way, we can discuss the issue presented before us, Benelana Gremory spoke. Yes, why should we just let some human marry a pureblood devil? Lady Phoenix asked with a cocked eyebrow, to which Issei grinned. Do you like wagering, House of Phoenix? He spoke cryptically. The 3 exchanged glances before Lord Phoenix spoke. Depends on the wager. How about this generation's Red Dragon Emperor? He spoke, to which everyone including Grafia froze up and their eyes widened. Issei thrust his fist into the air. Boosted gear, he shouted before the telltale gauntlet appeared in a flash of green. Well, who knows, Riaz knows how to catch him. Zeodicus Gremory chuckled, as did Surziches. Now that's out of the way, my proposal is a rating game between me and Razor. If I win, the wedding between Riser and Riaz is annulled and I receive a monetary reward that you deem appropriate, but if I lose, I will be a devil of the House Phoenix and therefore you will have the Red Dragon Emperor. Issei explained. The Phoenixes exchanged glances. May we have time to discuss your proposition? Lord Phoenix spoke formally. Of course, Issei replied as the trio of Phoenix left for a separate room. The moment they left, Surziches stood and went up to Issei and began appraising the boy. How did you make Riaz your girlfriend? Surziches asked bluntly, wanting an answer. Well, she isn't my girlfriend. Issei spoke while scratching his cheek. Surziches, Lord and Lady Gremory had stunned expressions. Then why are you doing this? Lord Gremory spoke in confusion. The need to play hero, and plus if I break the marriage I get a date with Riaz, Issei explained with a nervous chuckle. Surziches laughed, as did Lord Gremory. So you basically swindled them into thinking you were? Lady Gremory spoke impressed, to which Issei nodded. You make good first impressions, Issei Hyoudou. I wouldn't mind if you dated Riaz, considering she allowed it. Lady Gremory approved with a demure smile, to which Issei blushed and glanced to the side. Ria's mother is hot. No wait, bad thoughts. Issei mentally berated himself. Of course, as I say, I may be a pervert but not a rapist, Issei commented as he got himself together before the House of Phoenix re-entered. Lord Phoenix walked up to Issei Hyoudou and placed out his hand. Issei Hyoudou, we accept your wager, and should you win, the House of Phoenix will grant you a sum of $50 million. Should you lose, you will join the House of Phoenix as a pawn in Red Dragon Emperor. I accept, he said as he shook Lord Phoenix, and little did the House of Phoenix know how much they just got swindled. Issei was promptly led out of the room, but not before the terms were set up. The fight would be recorded and would be judged by a small retinue of esteemed judges. The arena would be modeled of the Colosseum of Rome, a blatant advantage for Razor, as was pointed out by Succubus, as it would allow Razor to maximize his numbers advantage. However, in exchange for this, the Phoenixes did agree to have the game postponed to a month to allow the human who would be challenging the House of Phoenix some time to prepare, although the Phoenixes were sure it would hardly help him. He was escorted out of the room by Graphia, who took him back the way he came. I can't tell if you're confident or just a fool, she spoke calmly. Probably a bit of both, he admitted with a shrug. The Phoenix will be hard to defeat. Even if you are the Red Dragon Emperor, you are still ultimately human, and therefore weaker, Graphia told him with ice calm seriousness. Immense regeneration and potent flames, truly a difficult opponent, Issei admitted. But I made Rias a promise and I intend to keep it. Little did they know that the 1 month they gave me would be their downfall, Issei commented with determination. Graphia glanced at the boy before giving him a smile. I expect nothing less from you, Issei, she replied. Issei mirrored her smile with his own. We should talk more often, Graphia, he told her. A few seconds paused before Graphia replied, a smile tracing her lips that made Issei's heart race. Yes, we should. Now let us return to the club room and hope Razor has not done anything stupid for his own sake. After all, I'm sure your two lady friends will not be so forgiving. Graphia spoke with a sigh at the man. She did not like Razor, but there were many similar men like in Devil Society, so she had become numb to their actions, but she still found it tiring to an extent. She summoned the teleportation circle that would transport the two, and with a bright flash, they were gone again to the club room. Issei and Graphia arrived at the not-so-surprising scene of Razor arguing with Rias. Issei glanced over to Tiamat and Lilith, who just looked amused, but he could tell they were ready to intervene if the situation arose. You're such an idiot. I can't believe the suggestion of me marrying you was even considered. Rias shouted at Razor. You are more stubborn than a bull nailed to the ground. Just accept you will marry Razor. He retorted back. Graphia cleared her throat, bringing the attention of the two arguing high-class devils. It has been decided between the two houses that if Razor, while also using his peerage, can defeat Issei Hyoudou, Rias Gremory's boyfriend, in battle that will take place after 1 month, then Razor will wed Rias Gremory and Issei Hyoudou will be reincarnated as a devil of House Phoenix. However, should Razor lose, the wedding will be cancelled, and the House of Phoenix will recompense Issei Hyoudou with a sum of money that was agreed on. Graphia explained the terms of the contract. Razor had a disgusting grin from ear to ear, while Rias looked worried, while Lilith and Tiamat had calm expressions. Razor will not lose to some human, and anyway, you are outnumbered 16-1, I have a full set of pieces. Bring it on, KFC, I like my extra crispy. Issei spoke with a cocky, infuriating grin. His comment made Rias, Akeno giggle, and Kiba, Kaneko, as well as Lilith, Graphia and Tiamat smile. We are Phoenix's immortal birds, not KFC, you arrogant human. Razor roared like a child. Gentlemen, let the battle in 1 month settle the score. Graphia spoke coolly, defusing the situation. Wise words from the strongest queen, Razor admitted, while Issei nodded in agreement with Graphia's thoughts. Now Lord Razor, your family wishes to speak with you, Graphia informed him before summoning a teleportation circle. Until next time, Issei Hyoudou spoke while glaring daggers at Issei before walking into the circle and disappearing in a flash. Well, good riddance, Issei quickly quipped. What were you thinking? Rias shrieked suddenly as her face turned pale as she took in the gravity of the situation. Rias, I did what I had to do, trust me, there was no other way, Issei quickly justified. Even so, how do you expect to defeat him? You are outnumbered 16-1 and you are only human. The disadvantages are astronomical. Rias spoke in panic as she closed the distance to Issei, who could see worry in her blue-green eyes. Issei suddenly grabbed Ria's shoulders, freezing her in place and leaving her mouth slightly open as she wanted to previously talk. Issei used his hide and leaned in and gave her a comforting smile as he locked eyes with the Redeed. Rias, I am sorry it had to happen this way, but I will keep my word and I will get you out of this marriage, alright? He spoke soothingly before petting her on the head. She blushed at said action before he stepped away from Rias. Alright, I have 1 month, let's not waste a day, he said, turning to Light and Tiamat, who nodded before he walked to the exit. However, he stopped just before and glanced over his shoulder. I look forward to our date, Rias. He spoke with a genuine smile before leaving with Lilith and Tiamat in tow. Good luck, Ice. Riaz, Kiba and Akeno called out to him as he walked further away from the club, a smile framing his face. You better win for me, Riaz thought as her heart paced at the thought of Issei. It seems Riaz has fallen hard for Issei, Akeno commented, bringing Riaz from her musings. I haven't fallen for him. I'm just really grateful. Riaz quickly shrieked as she panicked while Akeno just giggled demurely. Issei, Lilith and Tiamat arrived home to be greeted by the sight of Kalawiner, who was watching some TV. Welcome back, Kalawiner greeted with a smile. Sorry Kalawiner, short notice, but get the others, we are going to Spain for a month, Lilith told Kalawiner, who cocked an eyebrow in surprise before shrugging her shoulders. Short notice, but who says no to Spain? Kalawiner admitted, slightly doubting the reasons behind a need to go to Spain, before going to get Rainer, Asya and Middled. Spain? Issei spoke in surprise as he turned to Lilith. I have a mansion there in the country where we can train. I also need to contact a friend who can help. This month is paramount to your success, she elaborated. Yeah, I also need to ask Kalawiner, Rainer and Middled if they can train me to wield light weaponry, Issei said as he scratched his neck. Issei, your magic reserves aren't great, Tiamat pointed out. I know, but I have to at least try. Issei admitted, knowing that he was weak in terms of magic, which was already low due to him being human. You two go get packed, I need to talk to my friend and call in a favor. Lilith shooed Tiamat and Issei off before pulling out her phone. She dialed a number and after a few short moments of ringing a voice greeted her. Hey Lily, what's up? A cheerful voice called back over the line. Hey Leon, I need a favor. Lilith cut to the chase, but a smile danced its way onto her lips from talking to her old friend. Oh, and what might that favor be from Big Sis? The voice questioned with curiosity. I need you train my lover, Lilith elaborated. Consider it done. So when do I meet a lover boy? The voice said with excitement and a grin that could be felt through the phone. The day at my house in Spain, Lilith told her curtly. Alright, see you then, Lily. The voice spoke happily before the connection cut, and Lilith just smiled. Her and Issei are gonna get along like two peas in a pod. She said aloud to no one in particular before going to help everyone else pack. The group teleported to a breathtaking sight. The mansion was made of stone and had an aged brown look to it. It was situated on a hill that overlooked the coast and had its own beach. There was a white fountain in the middle that emanated a soft sound of water splashing. The villa courtyard had a road of stones that went around the fountain and towards the gate of the villa. There were also several trees within the perimeter fence of the mansion, but they did not obstruct its beauty, but rather contrasted with it. Issei spoke with impressiveness at Lilia's mansion. The fallen angels looked like they were in heaven. This is my kind of vacation home, Rainer said while whistling. Kalawiner merely stretched her arms, while her eyes glared with desire at the beach. Asya looked out of her depth as she had never seen homes this large, let alone get to stay in one. Meanwhile Lilith was grinning from ear to ear, soaking up the compliments, while Tiamat seemed unfazed, as the Dragoness was used to such luxury centuries ago, when she used to walk amongst humans. Alright ladies, now for the real reason we are here, Lilith spoke bluntly, which brought Kalawiner, Rainer and Middled out of their reverie. I knew there was a catch, Kalawiner sighed, half expecting such a catch. So what's the catch? Middled asked with suspicion. We have to train Issei here to be able to defeat a peerage of devils led by Riser Phoenix from the immortal house of Phoenix in a month. It's no biggie, Lilith explained without a care in how daunting the task is. The fallen angels looked gobsmacked as if Lilith was out of her mind, while Tiamat grinned at the woman's lackadaisical explanation, and Issei just shook his head. The Phoenix, the one that can regenerate any wound in a matter of seconds? That Rainer asked for clarification. Yup, Lilith replied without skipping a beat. Are you insane how a human is despite having the boosted gear supposed to defeat a phoenix? Rainer questioned with confusion while Issei frowned. He knew that since he was human he would be weaker, but even if he was human, nothing would deter him from his ambitions and desire to protect his loved ones. Don't worry, this is when I tell you the plan, Lilith spoke confidently. Issei has already achieved Balance Breaker, and he can hold it for at least 3 days. She updated them on Issei abilities. His magic reserves are small, but when he boosts they can be increased to a decent amount, and I want you fallen angels to teach him how to create light weaponry. It may be a long shot, but we have to try. Light weaponry will be hard for Issei to learn. I highly doubt he will be able to do it. Sorry Issei, but I gotta be frank, Kalawiner spoke, noticing Issei frown as he began realizing how weak he really was and how weak the others saw him. Nonetheless, you three have to try. Meanwhile Asya, your job is very important, which is to keep healing Issei, as our training will be quite intense, Lilith explained, while Issei gulped knowing how much of a training nut job Lilith could be, and he was pretty sure Tiamat was as well. Tiamat will be in charge of physical activities that aim to improve his strength and toughness. I will be in charge of Issei's agility training, while a friend of mine will be teaching Issei close combat moves, Lilith explained Issei's training regime. And who might this friend of yours be? Issei asked with curiosity. She should be here soon, but I'm sure you will get along just fine with her. Lilith waved off any concerns about her friend and for now satisfied Issei's curiosity. "Alright Tiamat, why don't you give Issei a small warm-up," Lilith said with a sadistic smile, to which Tiamat mirrored with a grin while she cracked her knuckles. With pleasure she spoke huskily as if it turned on to be beating on Issei. Her words sent a shiver of worry, but also arousal through Issei, while the fallen angels felt a shiver of fear as did Asya. "Now Issei, I want 10 laps up and down the hill, starting from now," she ordered before promptly turning into her dragon form. Otherwise she threatened before snorting a small plume of blue flame, making Issei gulp before bolting down the hill with Tiamat right behind him. Poor Issei, Asya spoke in pity while the fallen angels nodded in agreement. Lilith meanwhile moved up to the porch of her villa and sat on the stone bench while crossing her legs. She snapped her finger, and a succubus maid dressed in a French maid outfit appeared carrying a strawberry pina colada which Lilith took and thanked her servant who disappeared back into the mansion. "Sit back and enjoy the show, I'll call you girls when we need you," Lilith spoke with enjoyment as she saw her lover running for his life. She found it arousing his fearful expression, and the fact Tiamat was being so heavy-handed with her fire only served to add to her arousal. The fallen angels and Asya disappeared into the mansion to be settled in, all the while Issei screams reverberated throughout the area. Issei collapsed onto the fountain in front of the villa. Those 10 laps were hell on earth, considering there was a certain blue flame-spitting dragon hot on his ass throughout his run. Also going up and down an incline was ridiculously hard. He was catching his breath with one hand propping him up against the fountain, while the other wiped the sweat off his brow. "Having fun, Issei?" Lilith called out from the porch while sipping on her pina colada and reveling in the sun. "Yes, loads of fun," he spoke sarcastically in between his gulps for air. "You're not done, hell, we barely started, boy," Tiamat commanded as she returned to her human form. "I want 500 push-ups," she ordered, to which Issei's eyes bulged out of his skull in shock, but he grit his teeth before getting into the push-up position before Tiamat took a seat on his back, making it immensely harder as she was a lot heavier than he thought. "Don't be a wimp, I'm not that heavy, boy," she scolded him before he grunted and continued doing the push-up. The fallen angels returned accompanied by Asya as they saw Issei going down and up while Tiamat sat on his back, barking the number of push-ups he was on. "He looks half dead already, and we just started," Middle spoke in shock, to which Lilith waved off. "His stamina is half decent, Tiamat, and I made sure of it, and I trained him for 2 months." She explained, weaving in the innuendo which did not escape the fallen angels, but Asya nodded as if nothing happened. "You call that a push-up, do it again." Tiamat barked as Issei grunted and continued his push-ups, sweat lacing the skin of his body. The half hour passed before Issei reached 500 push-ups, and Tiamat got off him. The boy crumpled onto the floor panting. Rainer procured a bottle of water for Issei and knelt down, shaking the bottle of water in front of Issei before stretching it out to him. He managed to get in a half-sitting position. "Thank you," as he took the water bottle before downing it. "Keep it up, Issei, we all believe in you," Rainer offered words of encouragement. "Thanks, I don't plan on letting you down." "Alright, break time is over, boy," Tiamat barked before she continued her grueling physical training. Issei collapsed onto the ground shirtless and sweating like a pig while his chest heaved. He felt like he was going to die. He had long discarded his shirt as it stuck to him and made him feel uncomfortable. It exposed his toned form, and now due to the intense workout he had been put through, his muscles were more visible. "Not bad, boy, but you still have a month to suffer through and improve through," Tiamat complimented Issei, who nodded before leaning up into a half-sitting position. He caught a water bottle that was thrown at him by Lilith. He quickly uncapped it before downing the drink as if his life depended on it. "You are with me next, Ice," she spoke sweetly with a smile before he nodded and got up, dusting himself off. "So what's the next torture?" He spoke with fake joy. "Come along and see," she spoke with a wink that betrayed the true nature of the hell he was about to be put through. Lilith led Issei to a nearby forest that shimmered brightly in the sun. As he came to the forest, there was a large tree that had a lighter bark color, and on it, Issei found that there was a large white flag implanted in the tree. "Alright, Issei, see this white flag? This is the starting place of your shuttle runs, and on the other end of the forest, there is another tree with a black flag. That is where you have to run to, then run back to the white flag. You will have to complete it while being timed as well as avoiding my attacks." "Your attacks?" Issei spoke in shock. He knew Lilith could fight with her claws and could even create illusions, and he knew she was adept at magic, but he didn't know what magic she could use in terms of offensive spells. "Indeed, and I am going to enjoy watching you squirm as you try to run," Lilith spoke huskily as she licked her lips sensually, which made Issei gulp a little in nervousness but also attraction. He did find Lilith's dominating side attractive, the sadistic side, not so much as it usually was his life on the line. "What are you waiting for?" "Clock's ticking," Lilith spoke calmly as she formed a black spear of dark magic in her hand. "Oh fuck," Issei sighed before bolting down into the forest and a flying, sadistic and laughing manically succubus hot on his ass. Issei dragged his body out of the forest and turned over for what was the second time onto his back, panting and cuts all over his body. A shadow eclipsed his downtrodden form which shielded him from the sun. Glancing up, he saw his lover and trainer, who had a smile of enjoyment on her face. Not bad for your first time, she hummed. Issei cracked a small smile. I almost regret you going easy on me those past 2 months, he replied in between greedy gulps of air. I couldn't be too harsh, after all you were barely as fit as you are now, not to mention tougher. Come now, let's go have Issei heal you, ice. She told him honestly. Issei had improved by leaps and bounds, but in order to defeat Razor, they had to go harsh on him. She stretched her hand out, which Issei took before being lifted onto his 2 feet. He then walked back to the mansion porch where he saw Tiamat, Asya, Rainer, Middled, Kalwerner and Asya in conversation with a woman. The woman had a long wild mane of blonde hair, along with 2 bangs that framed her face. Her blonde hair complemented her fierce golden predatorial eyes. She wore a revealing outfit with a black tube top that struggled to confine her large breasts. She wore pants, boots and a scar around her neck. What struck Issei the most was her animalistic features. She had what could be described as yellow cat ears, along with fur on her arms and claws akin to a lion. She also had lion-like feet, but they were concealed by her boots. The woman's ears twitched before she even turned to see Issei and Lilith walk back. Asya saw Issei's wounds and quickly came over to Issei. Issei, she called his name. She prepared her twilight healing. Thanks Asya, he thanked her as he began experiencing the warmth of Asya's twilight healing. Hey Lily. Is that a lover boy? The woman spoke rather bluntly. Issei cocked his eyebrow before turning to Lilith. Lover boy really? He deadpanned, but his comment was ignored by a shrug from Lilith. Hey Leon, I missed you. Lilith hugged the woman now known as Leon, who eagerly returned the hug. So are you going to introduce me or what? Leon spoke with a smile as she looked at Issei, who was curious as to who this woman called Leon was. Lilith turned to Issei and introduced her friend. Leon, Empress of the Beastkin, also known as Leonel, a friend of mine. Issei's eyes widened. Beastkin? You mean half humans, half animals? Issei asked, remembering Lilith's explanation of supernatural creatures when she first met him and began training him as well. Lilith nodded before she smiled. She is also your close combat instructor. Leon gave Issei a toothy grin before she cracked her knuckles rather loudly, making Issei gulp nervously. After a few minutes of Asya treating him, Issei, reluctantly, began his close quarter training with him facing off Leon, who looked really relaxed, which made Issei even more tense. He took a basic position with his right leg in front of his left and his arms raised to roughly below eye level in a rudimentary boxing guard. Leon's predatory eyes glinted as if she was devouring Issei's form and body with her eyes. Not bad, you at least have the boxer form. Before suddenly a flash of blonde danced before his eyes and Issei found himself staring at the sky and on his back. What just happened? Rainer speaks everyone's thoughts except Tiamat and Lilith. One moment Leon and Issei were standing still and next Issei was flat on his ass. Issei's vision was greeted by the sight of the amused blonde who was grinning ear to ear. As expected, your reactions are slow, but don't worry lover boy, we will have you trained up in a month, she comforted him before suddenly lifting him to his feet. Again she commented before Issei tried to throw a punch. It was above average by human standards, but pathetic by supernatural. Next thing Issei knew was that his punch was redirected and Leon had lifted him by his arm and flipped him over her and onto the floor before she twirled and wrapped her legs across his chest and gripping his arm, which was sandwiched between her legs and trailing up her chest before his hand was locked in the grip of her own. Issei could feel her twist as if she was trying to pop his arm out of its socket. Issei gritted his teeth. He knew struggling was useless, but he could still use his other arm. His spare arm lashed out and jabbed Leon in her side, but all that earned was a smirk from the blonde, who let go of his arm before quickly leaping on top of Issei. Her knee digging into his gut while her other knee held his arm down. Issei lashed out again trying to punch, but she caught his fist in the palm of her hand. She taunted him with a grin, just a teasing grin. She was enjoying this, dominating him, beating him down. She relished the superiority. Issei grit his teeth, finding strength in his upper body. His arm trapped beneath her knee, quickly snaked around her thigh before Issei twisted his form, sliding himself out from under her and throwing her off him, and he stumbled to his legs nearly upright, were it not for the quick leg swipe that robbed him of his newfound freedom, and he yet again found himself staring at the blue sky. He then felt a boot place itself on his chest before the same Cheshire grin appeared and the haughty teasing voice of Leon rung out again. Come on lover boy, show me how to tussle, and thus continued Issei hand-to-hand training. Issei groaned as he once again picked himself off the ground. Bruises littered his body from Leon's close combat training. He had to admit Leon was damn good at it, and she said their training would not only be close combat, she would teach him stealth techniques in case he was outnumbered. After a quick healing from Asya, he was fit as fiddle on the surface, but on the inside he was exhausted mentally and physically. He now had light weaponry training with Kalwerner. She was considered to be the first choice for Issei, as she was the oldest of the three fallen and therefore most proficient in the use of light weaponry. The three decided that eventually they all would tutor Issei, but for now it was better if Kalwerner at least gave him the introduction. Kalwerner noticed Issei's exhaustion and was therefore a lot more lenient and gentle in her training of Issei. Boost. The familiar word rung out indicating Issei had boosted. Calwarner had told him as a human, his magic reserves were too low, and he wouldn't even be able to summon 1 molecules of light. Try now, Issei Calwarner spoke encouragingly after he boosted once. Instead of boosting several times, she wanted Issei to boost the appropriate amount of times for efficient use of his stamina, while also maximizing the efficiency and power of his light weaponry. Issei closed his eyes in concentration and began feeling for what Calwarner could only call the light. She explained that every being had it to a certain extent, but angels and fallen angels had it to higher extents, allowing them to manipulate and create light weaponry. There were no limits on what kind of light weaponry that could be formed. Swords, spears, daggers, halberds, warhammers and even bows and arrows. Issei could feel a certain warmth and glow that would be associated with light, and he willed it, and he could feel it move. It started in his chest, and a certain warmth trailed from his chest down to his fingertips. He could feel them in his fingers, desperate to break free. He opened his eyes and he could feel something in his hand. It was a small ball of light, yellow and sparkling, but it was for a mere blur of moments before it fizzled and disappeared. Calwarner had a smile of support gracing her lips before she spoke. Wow, you actually manifested it on your first boost. Granted it didn't last long, or that you could shape that still speaks highly of your potential, Issei. Thanks Calwarner, he replied with a smile. Issei boosted once again. This time he searched for the light sensation, but this time it was brighter, warmer and more emanated. He quickly formed another yellow ball in the palm of his hand, and this time it manifested for a better part of a minute before disappearing again. However, Issei wasn't disheartened. For the first time in what was a long day for him, he finally had some much desired success in something. Keep going, Issei. Calwarner encouraged. Thanks Calwarner, he replied with a smile of pure joy before yet again the familiar words, boost, rang out once again. He once again managed to summon another yellow ball, and this time it lasted for at least 2 minutes before dissipating. Calwarner was genuinely impressed. Issei had a lot of potential, and he was clearly demonstrating it by being able to summon light, and it eased her worries about him being able to form light weaponry, but there was still a long way to go. She saw the way it bothered Issei. He didn't like the fact that since he was human, it automatically made him weaker than other supernatural creatures, but she also knew that they couldn't baby Issei. He was the wielder of the boosted gear, and he would naturally attract enemies, not to mention his rival, the White Dragon Emperor. Issei had to face reality. He was ultimately weak, but he could be trained, honed to be more powerful or as powerful as others in the supernatural world. Boost. The familiar words rang out and once again Issei summoned a ball of light, and after 5 minutes it still had not disappeared. So it takes 3 boosts for you to hold the ball for at least 5 minutes. Calwarner pondered with her fingers on her chin. That didn't seem too hard, Issei spoke as he looked over the ball. Yes, it wasn't. The hard part is if you can actually form into some sort of weapon that requires a lot of imagination and patience. Calwarner explained. Try it now, Calwarner told him. Issei closed his eyes and he pictured a weapon he could easily make. A sword would be too hard, so would a spear. How about a dagger? Issei thought as he pictured a small dagger. As Issei looked deep in thought, Calwarner could see the ball of light shifting, as if it was trying to form something. A part of it began pointing before suddenly it began shaking uncontrollably in Issei's hand before fizzing out of existence. Issei's eyes opened as he could not feel the familiar warmth or sensation of the light ball. He blinked a few times while looking at his hands before turning to Calwarner with a confused expression. What happened? It seems that the light had enough energy to maintain a ball form, but it did not have enough energy for you to temper it. What were you trying to form? She replied with an interested expression. I was trying to form a dagger, small and easier to make than a sword and spear. Plus, it would work well with Leon's close combat training. Alright then, that's our goal. Issei had tried for the better part of 2 hours under the tutelage of Calwarner, but he had unfortunately been able to form a dagger, but Calwarner constantly reassured him that he would be able to form some form of light weaponry by the end of the month. Issei had taken a shower and promptly collapsed onto a bed. He had found it weird that neither Lilith or Tiamat were here. His entire body felt sore and numb, but he thought he made lots of progress, despite getting his ass kicked around a lot, and Calwarner had lifted his spirits with his limited success in forming light weaponry and her praising of his potential. He glanced up at the ceiling and let out a yawn as he felt his eyes slowly shut, and he drifted into a blissful sleep. Issei was woken up by the rather loud creaking of the bed, his eyes pried open, and he rapidly blinked as his eyes began adjusting to the darkness. He then felt a weight straddle his hips before he saw a pair of dark blue eyes that shone like beacons peering down on him. He immediately recognized the person. Calwarner? He spoke rather loudly before he felt her finger press against his lip, forcing him into silence. She leaned into his ear, her hot breath tingling against his ear. I want you, she whispered sensually as he felt her finger gently glide over his chest. Damn it, Calwarner, I'm exhausted. Do we really have to do this now? Issei sighed, still feeling his muscles weighing him down. He could see her luscious lips form into a hex put that made him sigh. Damn it, I really want to sleep, but what kind of guy refuses someone like her? He internally sighed before he gave in. He roughly grabbed her neck before smashing his lips against hers. A hum of approval escaped the seductress. Issei savored the taste of her lips as he tasted a faint feeling of blueberry before he parted his lips to allow their tongues to embrace in a passionate dance and exchange of saliva. As they kissed, he could feel Kalwerner, who was only clad in purple lingerie, grind against his crotch, stirring a reaction from his lower half, with only the cloth of their respective underwear separating them. Kalwerner hummed in approval as she felt his cock pressing against her soft ass. However, as they kissed furiously and lustfully, Issei's hands did not remain idle as they rove over her soft curves before his hands met as they slipped past the cloth of her lingerie and greedily grabbed a handful of her soft ass, relishing the soft warm flesh between his fingers. Kalwerner moaned in approval at his actions as she continued grinding herself against him, her breasts pressed against his chest, while her rear was grinding slowly and rhythmically on his crotch, furthering his arousal. Kalwerner broke their kiss before unstraddling him. She then snaked down to his lower half, her body pressed against his legs as she eyed the bulge in his underwear. Hungrily, meanwhile, Issei was entranced by her cleavage and breasts that begged to be squeezed. Thanks for watching this video. Part 4 is over. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the playlist that I have created and enjoy. Link is in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.